From all the murder mysteries that I've read and enjoyed in the past, you tend to find a lot of books that are almost like a cookie cutter duplicate of others that you've already read. And I'm always find it refreshing when you read something and you find like it's just totally out of the box. And that's what I felt about Lying Close, was it just felt just completely different than what I was expecting, what I was going into, and it just was an experience. Whenever a book can do that, I think that's just amazing. So I think the fact that Frank is a forensic psychologist, it just makes the books even more real. And authors do that where they'll grab from real headlines and stuff, but he's actually, in many cases, right there, even more than someone just pulling something on the paper and saying that would make a great book. He's got so much more to bring, I think, into the read, and it shows so much where you are reading it and you feel like you are a witness on the scene.
I'm a forensic psychologist. I'm the guy who gets called in homicide, sexual assault, domestic abuse cases to do the interview. And what happened is that after you do this work for a while, you can't come home and tell your wife and kids, hey, guess what I did today? You know, you traumatize your entire family. And so I started writing true crime murder mysteries on the side, putting them on a 3-ring binder and sticking them in the closet. And then a few years ago, I decided to take my first book, murder book, and send it to a publisher. And the publisher, their first question was, who's your target audience? And I said, well, me, I wrote it to vent. And then they laughed and they said, this is gonna sell, you should start on a sequel, and it's just taken off from there. One of the advantages I have is an understanding of how predators think and how they rationalize and justify their behavior. Like in Lying Close, I make a comment in there that even killers are heroes in their own stories. And so I write from first person. Some of the chapters are from the investigator's perspective, some are from the victim's perspective, and some are from the killer or the kidnapper's perspective, depending on the crime and the case. Because I know how they rationalize and justify things, and I also worked with victims before I worked with offenders. And so I've actually counseled people who've been kidnapping victims and know how that thinking changes over time.
He is definitely coming up and is right up there with the Sanfords and the Krugers, and is marvelous in creating a world that you believe is really real, and creates this atmosphere that's really unique and interesting and pulls you in. And the thing that I especially love is the fact that it's done locally, and so everything feels like I remember things growing up. And I love that there's representation of different problems that we have in rural Minnesota. It's not often covered in anything except for the news, and of course in Fargo is the last time that anybody really talked about rural Minnesota and our issues. And so the fact that he's covering it but does it with sensitivity is really important to a reading public.
I write about actual Minnesota communities. I use actual places in the community, so if you go through that community, you think, oh, that's that place, or that's that place. And so that's kind of fun to see. So the book starts out with a home break-in near Grey Eagle, Minnesota. And then the investigator, Jon Frederick, is asked to take a look at a hunting accident in Stearns County. And then a runaway teen disappears and calls for help and then disappears in Paynesville. And as he's looking at these cases, they're all within 30 miles of each other. And so even though the crimes aren't that unusual, that the fact that they all happen so close in rural Minnesota has him thinking about this might be a symptom of a larger problem in the area. When the case goes cold, he realizes that someone close to the investigation is leaking information, and hence the name Lying Close, that you're going to find that a lot of people in the book lie at least a little. And so that's why I signed a lot of books by saying, who comes to your side when others cast stones? A great friend. Who causes you the deepest pain? Someone lying close.